Sports Nation breaking news.
You've been waiting a while for this. BYU and ESPN have announced a new 7-year agreement that will broadcast the Cougars' home games at least 4 annually each season through 2026. A minimum of 3 games will be carried on ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2. Additional games will be aired on the same 3 networks or ESPNU, and at least 1 game will be carried live on BYUtv. We think it's going to be North Alabama in 2020.
We're going to ask for, a better one, but
we're going to ask for Missouri.
We're getting North Alabama. It's all good. We're happy.
All games will be available to stream on the ESPN app. Now, within that 7-year agreement that takes BYU and ESPN through 2026, there is an announced bowl agreement. In 2020, 2022, and 2024, BYU will compete in ESPN-owned and operated bowls. In 21, 23, and 25, BYU is slated to play in the Independence Bowl.
Freeport, here we come.
In Louisiana. The 21 and 25 games will happen against a Conference USA opponent. The 2023 Independence Bowl is lined up for a Pac-12 opponent. Now,
Hopefully
there is
Utah.
A Cheez-It Bowl option, Jerem. Talk about the Cheez-It Bowl and how this plays into it.
I love Cheez-Its. Okay, if the Big Ten or Big 12 are unable to provide an opponent, BYU would option in lieu of an Independence Bowl and 1 ESPN event bowl game. So there's an option to just go to 2 Independence Bowls, potentially, if BYU goes to a Cheez-It Bowl. So what we have here is 3 different contracts. 1, home games with ESPN for 7 years. At least 4, as you mentioned. 3 on ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. 2, Independence Bowl for 3 seasons, unless one of those years, the Big Ten or Pac-12 doesn't supply one to the Cheez-It Bowl. And the other contract is with other ESPN-owned bowl games. And BYU has played in several of those the past couple of years. BYU fans have been waiting for this since Media Day when we were told it was close, right? So here we are. Took a little bit longer than we want, whatever. 7 more years with ESPN. When BYU went independent, it went independent, in my opinion, because of ESPN, because that was an option. If the Cougars couldn't stay and get what they wanted in the Mountain West, independence was going to work and works because of ESPN. Not only the home games being broadcast to Nation, and but also because of quality opponents.
BYU stays in the ESPN conference.
How many quality opponents is good, right?
Yes.
But the fact is that BYU has too many that are good, which is a great problem.
BYU stays in the ESPN conference for the next 7 years.
And let's all be honest. It's better than being in the Mountain West. There's more money there. There's more exposure. The schedule's better. And if that's what you want, it's fantastic right now. And the collaboration with ESPN has been awesome. And Tom Holmoe now joined us in studio moments after the announcement of the ESPN deal.
All right, Tom. First of all, looking great in that suit jacket and tie.
Suit.
Cougar blue.
This is a big day. This is a big day, obviously. We just broke the news about the new schedule. First of all, what is when you first saw it come to fruition and you signed the contract and it was all done, what went through your mind?
Hallelujah. It's been a long time. I really knew that this was going to be completed and finished, and we've been talking with ESPN for a number of years. It's great to have a relationship with them to where you know things are good. It took a long time to get completed because they were busy, we were busy, but we were always in conversation. We were always in communication. And sometimes I'd say, hey, where are we on this thing? Are we done? And they go, oh, sorry. And then they'd come back and say, hey, you guys all right with this? We gave you this thing. In the end, it's what we wanted. It's really good, and we're real happy about it.
Was there any question that you'd stay with ESPN, or did you look around to see what else was available?
No, we knew we would be with ESPN. That was just they're a great partner to us. We have had a great relationship with them for a long time. We work so well with them. I can't get into the details, but we trade cameras, and it's amazing what BYUtv, BYU Broadcasting does with ESPN. It's just fits like a hand in a glove, and they've been so good to us for so many years. It would take something crazy for that to change.
Is it? I know you're not going to say the number, but is it equal to or more the money per home game than you got before?
More.
It's more.
Yes.
Tom Holmoe with us on BYU Sports Nation. You look at ABC, ESPN, ESPN2. There will be 3 games broadcasted in Provo on those networks. ESPNU is an option. Those other bigger networks are also an option if the game merits it. Where does ESPN Plus factor into this for BYU?
I think ESPN Plus is just available to ESPN's fan base. I mean, I get on ESPN Plus sometimes to look at a game that I'm interested in that's somewhere back east or down south or another conference. So it's a great medium for people to watch games, but our games aren't going to be solely on ESPN3. Or, ESPN Plus.
And perhaps on the road, and we should explain that. So at Toledo, BYU has nothing to do with where that game is broadcast, right? Flow football, UMass, right? It can get weird sometimes. What was different in this negotiation and contract than when you first did it? And did you learn anything from the first contract into this one?
Well, the world of college athletics is changing at a rapid pace. I think the world of broadcasting, as you very well know, is changing. You're looking at things that are linear, which is on TV that we traditionally know it, to being on our tablets or our telephones or on our computer. And I can't tell you how many times now I'm watching in front of my computer BYU, a sport versus Pacific or LMU, and it's a great broadcast. It's on the computer. We didn't do that 5-10 years ago. The big question was, are we going to go off TV and are we going to watch things on Google or Yahoo or Hulu or whatever it might be.
Netflix was thrown in there.
Netflix and all those things. What I've learned from this is our fans across the country, including BYU, they love live TV. Now, the simulcast or broadcast onto your internet, through the internet, makes it so convenient. It's amazing for me to be different places across the country, and I go, hey, what are you watching? I'm watching BYU. What are you watching it on? Oh, the BYUtv app. And they're like, what?
Thanks for
what
that
are
plug,
you
Tom.
talking? Well, it's real.
I know.
And I show it to them, and they're like, that's in HD. I'm like, that's right.
And we've been able that way to, we've had trouble getting on satellites, but it doesn't matter in 2020. It just doesn't matter.
Look, it really doesn't take much to figure out where BYU sports are. You can get them all the time, and if it's a home game, it's going to be super great. If it's a road game, you're at the mercy of whoever you're playing. But most schools, most universities now take it pretty seriously. They need to, just like us, to make it right for their fans.
We've talked in the past about how tricky the bowl game contracts can be, and it goes without saying you got to work through a lot of really, really intricate details to make that happen. BYU signs a 3-year contract with the Independence Bowl, and then there are 3 years where you'll be in a bowl game. You just don't know which one it is yet. So how did you come to an agreement that was the approach that you wanted to go forward with bowl games?
I think the bowl game contract was a lot more trickier. Not necessarily the contract, but just how are we going to do this? And the reason being that all the conferences, P5, as well as Group of 5, they're all affiliated with bowls now. So you can take any Group of 5 conference and look, and they have their own bowl lineup. And that takes a lot of the bowl games away. So there's not a lot like there used to be that are kind of open or quote unquote independent, where you can get into the game, they can go pick them. And because that's the way it's turned to. It used to be a time where the bowls they just go out and it was kind of like open market. It was like the economy, here's how you go. Here's how the market works. You go get the best teams that you can get. But they've come to this conclusion that it works better for everybody to have it all worked out ahead of time. So you have the Big Ten number 6 against the ACC team number 7. It's hard to believe that that's the case, but that takes up a lot of bowls. So we had an opportunity to work this out with ESPN. And it was kind of fun for me this year. There's I'd say about 4 different groups that called me up and said, hey, we want to start a bowl and we want BYU to be the anchor. You'll be in it every year. I don't think that was really what we wanted to do. It wouldn't have been great for our fans. Well, when the Independence Bowl came along, it was nice to be able to say, hey, we can get into that bowl. We know we're going to be in that bowl that year if we're bowl eligible, and they do too. And it was a great relationship to forged. But there's a way with the Cheez-It Bowl where now we can get to Arizona on a given year, and Independence Bowl was fine with that. And we can get to the Cheez-It Bowl with the ESPN games in a given time. So 1 year that and 1 year that. So you look at the Independence, and one of the games would be against a Pac-12 opponent, and 2 of the games would be against Conference USA. We all know how many fans we have down in the South. They love their football. And so I think it's going to be, considering all the situations, a really good opportunity to have some fun in bowl season.
So it's a 7-year deal. 6 bowl games were mentioned. Is 2026 kind of open right now?
Yeah.
Is that TBD?
It was something we did with the 6-year cycle now of bowl games is when ESPN will, that's their cycle. And that's 6 years. They'll restart another one. Gotcha. So we kind of match up with them. It was good for them. And, you know, in this situation, what was good for them in the bowl games was really good for us.
Oh, what a great day on BYU Sports Nation and across BYU Sports Nation, the announcement of the ESPN deal through 2026. We'd like you to stick around for a little while longer. Is that okay?
Sure.
We got a lot to talk to you about. In fact, we could have done the whole show with you, I think. We're just doing 2 segments. But coming up, Tom Holmoe on the 4 more games with Stanford.
Yes, the athletic director on his experience in the Super Bowl as well, and advice he has for his BYU guys. So be thinking about that. This is BYU Sports Nation.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, the official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Friday night, we have number 2 versus number 3 as BYU's Gabi Garcia-Fernandez, who leads the nation in aces per set with 1 a set, and the Cougars host UC Santa Barbara Friday, 9 Eastern time. Cannot wait to see BYU in this game.
Alongside Jerem Jordan, I'm Spencer Linton. If you're just joining us, we are with BYU Athletic Director Tom Holmoe. The Cougars just officially announced a new 7-year agreement with ESPN that will extend through the 2026 season to broadcast a minimum of 4 BYU home games each season, with 3 of those carried on ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2 at the least. Also, a bowl game agreement is in place. You can always go back and listen to the podcast if you want those details. But we got to push it forward because there are other things to discuss, like an 8-year agreement now with Stanford. Tom, that came out yesterday. BYU extending that series with the Cardinal. Why was Stanford an opponent that you wanted to have on the schedule for what feels like almost an annual basis?
Why not? I think Stanford is a great school. I think it has a great name and a great brand. It stands for something great in the world of education and in athletics. It's probably the #1 athletic department in the country. But they have a great football program, great tradition, great history. It's a regional team, so the travel makes it nice. Obviously, we have an agreement of similar stature with Boise State, and that helps us a lot too. It's hard to do a game like that or a series like that of that term with someone out of your region. The travel has to be important for the fans to be able to get there. And we were just thrilled. I'm good friends with their athletic director, Bernard Muir, and I'm good friends with their head coach, David Shaw, who was a wide receiver when I coached down there. So we're very fortunate to do that. It works well with the Pac-12 scheduling, which is always important when we're scheduling at BYU. It worked great for later games in the season. Not all those games are going to be late, but some of them are later in the season, which we sometimes get log jammed with playing all these early season games, and then we're front-loaded.
Can we just call this a de facto Pac-12 agreement?
You can call it whatever you want. It's not. I mean, it's a good series.
There's enough of them that it feels regular, right? Which is great. 4 of the first 5 here are going to be at Stanford. Was that something that just worked out better for them?
Yeah, well, it worked out to do the deal. That's how it worked.
Okay.
Their schedules are already pretty much thick and in place, somewhat with ours. So basically, when you're looking at 2 teams and they're talking in a discussion, you put your schedules together and go, oh, home, away, home, away, home, away. With Stanford, it was going to be, if we don't do it this way, we're not going to have the series. Had a good conversation with Kalani and said, I think this will be all right. You know, it's close. We'll work around those games, so we're still going to have 6 home and 6 road every year.
Right.
It's just that we'll be
we're more
there.
open than they are in terms of looking forward, probably, right?
Athletic Director Tom Holmoe with us on BYU Sports Nation. I like the alumni base that exists in Northern California. And we were talking about this earlier, but while BYU does play 4 of the first 5 on the road, BYU fans should show up for this game. Should they not?
Sure. I mean, I think the last time we played in Palo Alto was, I'm going to say somewhere like 2004.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
So.
And it was great. And it's just, I love the expression on the athletic directors and the people's faces where we go for the first time. And they go, where did all these people come from? You guys travel really well. You brought all these people from Utah. I said, no, they're in your own backyard. They'll be here all the time whenever we play you. And when we played Stanford in the playoff game in soccer, when we played them in the NCAA tournament in baseball, it doesn't matter what the sport is. We're going to turn out in droves. 2020
schedule's out as well. We've basically known this for a while. It was finalized and released. What are your thoughts on 2020?
2020 is a good schedule. It's a good, really good home schedule, some tough teams away. It's another tough schedule. I think it's comparable, if not harder than last year. But I think as we looked at last year in the rearview mirror, I think the consensus is there's a few games that we could have won. There's a few games people thought that we wouldn't win that we did. And so this team is has to keep growing, has to be able to be more consistent. But I think that with this schedule, we play the way that we're supposed to win, play, and win the games that we're supposed to win. And when I say that, ask the players on the team which games they think they're supposed to win. And I think it'll meant for a good year.
All right, Tom, let's talk about the Super Bowl now before you go, because you got a bunch of good friends that are going to be participating in this game. Andy Reid, a friend that goes way back, coaching the Kansas City Chiefs. He and Dirty Dan, Daniel Sorensen are there. And then Fred Warner of your beloved San Francisco 49ers, who are back in the big game. What do you think of this matchup?
I love it. I think it's a great game. They're two great teams. It's been fun to watch all the hype on all the sports networks, to be able to just the lead up to the game gets my heart beating fast because I know how it is. And I'm just thinking of those players right now and those coaches and just trying to get themselves right and get that focus for the game. I really think that every Super Bowl, if you look back through the history, there's a lot of blowouts in the Super Bowl. And the reason being is that some teams get overhyped and overshoot. And some teams are just zeroed in. And I love Andy Reid, and he's a teammate of mine. Some people don't realize that John Lynch, the general manager of the 49ers, was a DB for me at Stanford. So I got family in this game on both sides. I can't wait. This is probably one of the Super Bowls that I didn't play in or coach that I'm most looking forward to.
And you have 4 rings, right?
Yeah, a couple.
Sunday, will you tweet out a photo of you holding up the 4 rings?
No.
Okay, just text me.
I'll let you do it.
Yeah, and then I'll tweet it.
All right, Tom. What advice would you give to Daniel Sorensen and Fred Warner, this being their first big Super Bowl game?
But both of these guys played very well this season. They're both very cerebral players. They have a great knowledge of the game. They both have very good instincts. Play with what got you there. Sometimes kids get into this game and they think they want to try to be the MVP. They want to, drive home and be at Disneyland the next day or however it goes. It doesn't the MVP get to go to Disneyland?
Like gets a truck and goes to
whatever. You just go play with how you got there. I really think that both of those guys will have really good games. I think that they're both mature kids. I think that they're going to talk to their mentors. They'll listen well to their coaches. There's great veterans on both teams that are friends of theirs. I think they'll both step into this game very well prepared to play great.
You want to go on record with a prediction?
49ers, that's my team. That's who I'm going with. As much as I love Andy and I'm very close with Danny, it's in my blood. I mean, it just feels like I've just got too many people. All my boys from the past, we're texting, we're calling, we got videos going back and forth, and it's making me feel giddy. I'm like a little kid. So I'm really excited for this game.
This is a good week for you. 2020 schedule's out, the ESPN deal, the Super Bowl.
Anything else we can do this week?
Hey, BYU basketball.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Beat Pepperdine.
Wait, Pepperdine. We put Pepperdine in.
Tom, the players can take it one game at a time. We can take it multiple. We're good. Yeah.
Thanks for coming in, Tom.
All right,
thanks, Tom.
Guys.
Appreciate it. Coming up, fresh and 1 picks for the most important game in the history of the planet. Right now, BYU and Pepperdine.
Yeah. My rise and shout out to one of our broadcasting colleagues. In fact, he was on the show last week. He's moving up in life. This is BYU Sports Nation.